They say love conquers all, but what happens when love stands face to face with deep-rooted family racism? What happens when a woman raised in a white, conservative family in the American South falls head over heels for a black man, and her family draws a brutal line in the sand? Well, she chose. And not quietly. She made her choice loud, public, and permanent, and the fallout? Oh, it went viral in ways no one could have imagined. But let's rewind to where this story begins, with Emily Carter, 27 years old, raised in a gated community in Birmingham, Alabama. Blonde hair, green eyes, church every Sunday, and a father who could recite Reagan speeches by heart. She was raised on traditional values, the kind that looked great on a bumper sticker but masked decades of silence and subtle bigotry. Her parents didn't scream slurs, they just whispered judgments when no one else was listening. Then Emily went to college in Atlanta. Liberal arts degree, freedom for the first time, roommates of every race, and professors who challenged everything she thought she knew. It was there, in her junior year, that she met Marcus Bell. 6 feet 3 inches, confident, engineering major, son of 2 teachers from Charlotte, North Carolina. He didn't try to impress her. He was just himself. And she couldn't look away. Their connection was instant but cautious. Emily knew her family would never approve. But Marcus wasn't some fantasy, he was real. He listened when she spoke, called out her blind spots without judgment, and stood up for her in rooms she never knew were unsafe. By senior year they were inseparable. And the day after graduation, Emily brought Marcus home to meet her parents. That was the beginning of the war. The silence at dinner was so thick it was a miracle anyone ate. Her father refused to look Marcus in the eye. Her mother smiled tightly but asked Marcus if he grew up in the bad part of Charlotte. Her younger brother just stared, half confused, half scared. Afterward, her father pulled her aside. "You're not serious about him, are you?" Emily answered with her whole chest, "I love him." Her father's face turned to stone. "Then you need to decide, him or this family." She thought he was bluffing. He wasn't. Within weeks, Emily's family stopped calling. Holidays passed without invitations. Her mother sent long guilt-laced emails. Her father sent silence. Meanwhile, Marcus stood by her side through all of it. When she cried at the idea of not being at her sister's wedding, he held her. When her car broke down and no one from her family offered help, he was under the hood in the rain. When she got sick and her mother didn't return her calls, he made her soup and changed her medicine. A year later, Marcus proposed. Emily said yes through tears. But this time she made a decision that changed everything. She wrote a letter. Not a quiet letter. A public one. She posted it on her blog titled, "To the Family Who Made Me Choose." In it she wrote, "You told me I had to choose between my heart and my heritage. I didn't choose against you, I chose for love. I chose a man who honors me, protects me, and challenges me to grow. I chose a man who didn't inherit hate and refuses to pass it down. If that makes me an outsider to you, so be it. I'll build a new family that doesn't measure love by skin color." That post? It didn't stay small. Within 48 hours, it had over 200,000 shares. News outlets started calling. Social media lit up with support and backlash. Strangers wrote her thank you letters. Racists flooded her inbox with threats. Her employer asked if she could take her blog down. But Emily didn't back down. She doubled down. She began speaking publicly, on podcasts, local panels, then national talk shows. And through it all, Marcus remained her quiet rock, refusing the spotlight, but standing next to her in every photo. Then it happened. One night, after a speaking event in Nashville, Emily returned to her hotel to find a letter slid under her door. No name. No signature. Just one line written in sharp, angry pen. "You think this is over? You have no idea who you're dealing with." She showed it to Marcus. He said nothing at first, but the next day they flew home early. And that's when everything unraveled. Because when they walked into their apartment, the door was cracked open. The lights were off. And someone had been inside. Emily clutched Marcus's hand as they stepped into the living room. The picture frames were smashed. The blog post, her post, was printed, shredded, and scattered across the floor like confetti. And on the mirror, written in red lipstick, were 3 chilling words. "You chose wrong." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The red lipstick message glared back at Emily like blood on glass. "You chose wrong." Her pulse roared in her ears as Marcus gently pulled her back from the mirror, his eyes scanning every shadow of their apartment. "Stay here," he whispered. He moved like muscle memory, checking each room the way a man who has been taught to always watch his back would. Emily stood frozen in the living room, the shards of broken photo frames crunching beneath her shoes. Her chest tightened. Every photo that had been smashed featured both of them, together. Their wedding photo. Their first apartment. Their vacation in Chicago. The others, photos of her alone or with friends, were untouched. The message was clear. This wasn't random. This was targeted. Marcus returned from the bedroom, jaw clenched. "They're gone," he said. "But they weren't here just to scare us." He handed her his laptop, open to his email. Someone had accessed it. Drafts had been opened. Files copied. Personal messages read. They'd been watched. Hunted. "We need to file a report now," Emily said. Marcus nodded, but his hands trembled. "This isn't just a hate message. Someone broke into our home. They want us to feel unsafe. And it's working." When the police arrived, their reaction made Emily's blood boil even more. A white officer walked through the apartment casually, as if inspecting minor vandalism. He took photos. Asked a few questions. But when Marcus tried to speak, the officer barely made eye contact. "No forced entry," the officer noted, shrugging. "Maybe a friend playing a prank?" Marcus's voice dropped low. "A prank? Someone broke into our home, trashed everything tied to our relationship, and left a threat in lipstick. Does that seem like a prank to you?" The officer sighed. "We'll file it. But without cameras or witnesses, there's not much we can do." Emily felt the old burn of helplessness rising. The same kind she felt when her family iced her out. When her father stared at Marcus like he wasn't human. When the trolls filled her inbox with slurs disguised as opinion. She had chosen love, but in choosing Marcus she had stepped into a war she didn't fully understand, and now, it was at their doorstep. That night they couldn't sleep. Marcus moved a chair against the front door. Emily lay awake with pepper spray in one hand and a baseball bat by the bed. When the morning came, Marcus turned to her with tired eyes. "If you want to walk away now, I'll never hold it against you." Emily stared at him. "Walk away?" He nodded slowly. "I've lived with this kind of hate my whole life. But you're not built for this. I don't want you broken because of me." Her voice cracked. "You didn't break me. They did. And I'm not giving them another inch." He wrapped his arms around her, and they sat in silence as the sun rose. But the calm didn't last. 2 days later, a blogger who had reposted Emily's original letter reached out. Her website had been hacked, her server logs wiped, and her personal photos leaked online. Someone had systematically started going after anyone who supported Emily's message. The hacker used a handle that sent a chill down her spine, Legacy Blood 88. Emily Googled it. The 88 wasn't random, it's white supremacist code. H equals 8th letter of the alphabet. 88 equals Heil Hitler. She felt her stomach twist. "This isn't internet trolling anymore," Marcus said. "This is organized." They went to the FBI. They waited. They were told it would take time. Meanwhile, the threats kept coming. Emails. Voicemails. A small fire started outside their building one night. Someone lit one of their wedding photos and left the melted frame at their doorstep. Emily refused to stop speaking. In fact, she booked more interviews. She wanted to bring attention to what was happening, to show the world this wasn't some isolated story. Racism wasn't over, just because it wore suits now instead of white hoods. But not everyone was on her side. Her cousin, one she'd grown up with who used to braid her hair at sleepovers, posted a Facebook status that read, "We all love who we love, but you can't expect to spit in your family's face and get sympathy when things go south." Emily stared at the post, mouth agape. Her cousin had liked every photo of her and Marcus when things were still quiet. But now, silence. Cowardice. Or worse, agreement. That night, Marcus looked her in the eyes and said, "They want to destroy us, not just physically. They want to make us feel alone." Emily whispered, "Then let's show them we're not." They organized a community event called The Love We Choose, held at a local rec center in Atlanta. Hundreds came. Interracial couples. Allies. People who had faced similar ostracization. Emily gave a speech that night that brought many to tears. But when she and Marcus got home, they found the police waiting. Someone had reported a domestic disturbance at their address. An obvious lie. It was harassment. Weaponized police contact. A tactic used to scare people into silence. The next morning, an anonymous package arrived. Inside was a USB stick. Against their better judgment, they plugged it into a quarantined laptop. It was video footage of Marcus. From college. Surveillance-style clips. In one, he's walking through campus. In another, he's talking with friends. In the last one, he's helping a young woman who had fainted. Yet the clip was edited to make it look like something sinister. A voiceover began. Marcus Bell isn't who you think he is. Emily's hands shook. They're trying to frame you. Marcus's jaw tightened. This isn't just a smear campaign. They're trying to destroy my character. My life. Our life. They turned the footage over to the authorities, but no one could trace where the drive came from. That week, Marcus lost a consulting job. Budget cuts, they said. But the timing said otherwise. The stress mounted. They started counseling just to stay grounded. They moved apartments. They upgraded security. But still, it followed them. Then one night, Emily got an unexpected phone call. A number she hadn't seen in over a year. Her mother. Her voice was shaking. Emily, you need to come home. Something happened. It's your father. Emily froze. She hadn't spoken to him since the ultimatum. What happened? She asked. Her mother's voice dropped low. I think he's involved in something connected to the people harassing you. Emily's breath caught in her throat. What are you talking about? There's paperwork in the garage. I think he's funding them. Or part of them. I'm scared, Emily. And just like that, the ground beneath her cracked wide open. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. Emily sat motionless, phone pressed to her ear, her mother's last words ringing in her mind. I think he's involved in something connected to the people harassing you. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drumline. Her father? A man who once tucked her into bed and read her bedtime stories? A man who stood proudly at her high school graduation? Could he really be tied to the nightmare unraveling her life? Marcus sat beside her, reading her face. What is it? He asked softly. She whispered, my mom thinks my father might be connected to the group that's targeting us. She says she found documents. She's scared. Marcus's jaw clenched, but he remained quiet. He always did when the rage rose too high to speak. Emily stood. We have to go. To Birmingham? Marcus asked, brows raised. It could be a trap, Emily. If it is, she said, voice steady, we need to walk into it with our eyes open. The drive was quiet. 5 hours on the highway, the past playing on a loop in Emily's mind. Her father at the kitchen table reading the paper. Her mother humming while she folded laundry. Her brother in the backyard shooting hoops. All of it, now tainted. Rewritten by a new, brutal context. As they approached her childhood home, a sprawling brick house with white columns and an American flag waving from the porch, Emily's stomach twisted. The place looked exactly the same. But it didn't feel like home anymore. Her mother answered the door quickly, looking pale and shaken. Her arms wrapped around Emily, but her eyes darted nervously to Marcus, and Emily could see the hesitation still lingered beneath the surface. I found something, her mother said, leading them toward the garage. I don't know how deep this goes, but I'm afraid. She pulled out a dusty cardboard box from behind a shelf. Inside were folders, some marked with logos, others labeled with cryptic initials. One folder read LB88, the same code Emily had seen online tied to white supremacist groups. There were financial records, donations made under her father's name to organizations with innocuous names like American Heritage Defense League and Freedom First Fund. But when Marcus Googled them, their real purpose became clear. Shell groups funneling money to extremist networks. And then Emily saw it, an email printout. Sent from her father's email to a contact named Red Branch 88. Read. My daughter is compromising our legacy. Her marriage is a disgrace. Let's apply pressure. She needs to be reminded of who she is, and who she's not. Emily staggered back like she'd been struck. Tears welled in her eyes. Marcus reached for her, but she pulled away, eyes locked on her mother. You knew. I suspected, her mother whispered, trembling. I didn't know it was this bad, Emily's voice cracked. He wanted to destroy my life. Because I loved Marcus. Because I married him. Her mother looked down. He always said he'd never accept it. I thought time would change him. But he got worse. Where is he now? Marcus asked calmly. At the country club, her mother said. He doesn't know I called you. You need to leave before he comes back. But Emily wasn't going anywhere. Not now. She turned to Marcus. We need to confront him. He hesitated. Are you sure? I need him to see what he did. I need to look him in the eye and say it, you lost your daughter. Marcus nodded. They drove to the country club. Marcus wasn't allowed in, dress code they claimed, but the sideways glances said everything else. Emily walked in alone. She found her father sitting in the lounge, sipping bourbon, surrounded by old white men laughing over cigars. For a second he didn't recognize her. Then his face hardened. You shouldn't be here. Emily didn't sit. I know everything. His eyes narrowed. Your mother's mouth always was too big. You sent people after me, she said. You tried to ruin Marcus. You're part of LB88. You tried to intimidate me into silence. Her father leaned back in his chair and exhaled. You embarrassed us, Emily. You dragged our name through the mud for attention. You could have lived quietly. Married your own kind. But you turned your back on your blood. No, she said, voice firm. I turned my back on your hate. It's not hate, he sneered. It's heritage. It's protection. You don't understand what we're preserving. You're preserving fear, she said. And I'm done being afraid of you. He stood suddenly, jaw tight. Leave. Now. But she didn't move. She pulled out her phone, opened the recording app and hit play. She read his own words back to him. My daughter is compromising our legacy. Her marriage is a disgrace. Let's apply pressure. Gasps rippled through the room. The other men looked at each other nervously. Her father's eyes went wide with fury. You don't know what you've done, he hissed. Yes, she said. I do. She turned and walked out, heart pounding. When she stepped outside, Marcus was waiting by the car. But before she could reach him, a black SUV peeled around the corner and screeched to a stop. 3 masked men jumped out. One grabbed Emily. Another shoved Marcus to the ground. And the third? He whispered into Emily's ear. You should have stayed quiet. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths. The cold grip of the masked man on Emily's arm felt like iron. Her heart thundered, her breath caught in her throat. You should have stayed quiet, he hissed again, low, sharp, almost gleeful. Marcus shouted her name, trying to scramble back to his feet, but one of the men kicked him in the ribs, sending him sprawling. The third man kept his eyes on the perimeter, watching for witnesses, but no one seemed to notice or care in the elite parking lot of the country club. Emily's instincts kicked in. Her thumb slammed the side button of her phone 3 times. Emergency mode. A silent alert pinged their location to 911 and activated her camera. It was now recording everything from the trembling in her hand to the breath of the man dragging her toward the SUV. Then chaos. A voice shouted in the distance. Tires screeched. And like a divine intervention, a passing security guard on a golf cart swerved into view, radio in hand. The masked men panicked. One pulled a weapon but hesitated. They weren't expecting attention. The man gripping Emily shoved her hard to the ground and bolted. One of them tripped and fell. Marcus, gasping for air, pounced, slamming the guy to the pavement with a rage born from weeks of pressure and fear. The man struggled, but Marcus didn't let up. The security guard rushed to help. Sirens howled in the distance. The other 2 men peeled away in the SUV, vanishing into the trees. Police arrived minutes later, this time taking things seriously. Maybe it was the elite neighborhood, or the bloody nose on the man Marcus had pinned. Maybe it was the clear threat. Either way, this wasn't dismissed as a misunderstanding. Emily showed the footage. Clear voices. Clear faces. Clear intent. The arrested man's name was Derek Lang. Former military. No known address. But he had a tattoo on his wrist. A snake wrapped around a sword. The same symbol that appeared in one of the folders from her father's garage. At the station, as officers questioned Derek, something else dropped. A federal liaison arrived, FBI. Turns out Derek had been on a watch list for over a year. But no one could get close enough to confirm the organization he worked for. Now they had names. They had links. And they had motive. The FBI requested a formal interview with Emily and Marcus. They sat in a gray-walled conference room with Agent Reyes, a woman in her 40s with the kind of calm voice that said she'd seen far worse. "We believe you've been targeted by a group calling itself the Red Branch," she said, unfolding case files. "White nationalist network. Sleeper cells. Funded quietly by donors who operate above suspicion. Your father may be one of them." Emily didn't flinch. She had suspected it. Seeing it laid out on federal paper just made it official. Agent Reyes continued. "They focus on people like you, those who challenge the narrative publicly. Interracial couples. Activists. Whistleblowers. Your blog made you a symbol. That symbol became a threat." Marcus asked, "So what now?" "We're building a case," Reyes said. "But this group's strength is silence. Money. Ties to law enforcement and local politics. That's how they operate until someone talks." Emily looked at the files. Photos of others. Families. Couples. People like them, harassed, broken, some vanished. "I want to talk," she said. "I want to testify. Go public again. But bigger this time." Marcus turned slowly toward her. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "They want me scared. They want me gone. But I'm not hiding anymore." Over the next week things moved fast. The FBI increased their protection. Marcus and Emily were relocated to a secure apartment. Emily's blog exploded with a new post, detailing the recent attack and naming the group directly, the Red Branch. The post went viral again. More people came forward. Stories from Oregon, North Carolina, Texas. Couples like Emily and Marcus, targeted, isolated, silenced. For the first time, the Red Branch had faces, exposure, and national attention. But exposure came with consequences. 2 nights after the blog post, a black SUV was seen circling their secure building. Later, someone mailed Marcus a torn piece of their wedding invitation, burned at the edges. Emily was scheduled to speak at a televised panel about modern extremism. Security was tight. The event was hosted in Washington, D.C., and Agent Reyes assured them everything would be locked down. The night of the event, Emily stood backstage, nerves electric. She could hear the buzz of the audience. This was the biggest platform she'd ever had. Marcus leaned in and kissed her forehead. "No matter what happens, we're walking through it together." The host introduced her. She stepped into the spotlight. Cameras flashed. Applause rose. She took the mic. And with a calm, clear voice, she said, "My name is Emily Carter Bell. And I was told to choose between my family and my black husband. I chose love. And now I'm choosing truth." The crowd leaned in. The moment was electric. She spoke about the threats, the system, the Red Branch. She called out silence. She demanded change. But just as she neared the end of her speech, Agent Reyes burst through the backstage curtain. She rushed to the event coordinator, who turned pale. A man had been spotted entering the building using a stolen security badge. Wearing a maintenance uniform. Carrying something large in a tool bag. Emily was still speaking. The FBI raced toward the back corridors. Security scrambled. And Marcus, watching from the wings, felt his stomach twist, because across the hall, through a side door, he saw a man moving against the flow of people. Calm, focused, and wearing the same boots as one of the men from the attack outside the country club. Marcus shouted, but the crowd was cheering too loudly. The man disappeared behind the stage. And then, the lights flickered. The mic cut. And a sharp, high-pitched alarm rang out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift black voices and expose hidden truths. The siren screamed overhead like a war cry, and everything inside the auditorium shifted into slow motion. The stage lights flickered once, then again. Emily froze mid-sentence, gripping the mic as if it were the only thing anchoring her to the earth. Her heart slammed against her chest. Marcus was already running, shouting her name over the roar of the crowd that now erupted into panic. Security fanned out across the exits. Some audience members dropped to the floor, others trampled over chairs trying to flee. From the wings of the stage, Agent Reyes bolted forward, yelling, "Get her down!" But before she reached Emily, a loud pop rang through the rafters. Not a gunshot, something worse. A smoke canister hissed and exploded on the left side of the auditorium, sending a thick gray cloud crawling through the rows. Another boom followed from backstage. Someone had triggered a homemade distraction device. In the chaos, a man in a maintenance uniform leaped onto the edge of the stage from the opposite side. He reached inside his tool bag and pulled out a long, jagged hunting knife. "Emily!" Marcus's voice rang through the auditorium just as the attacker lunged. But Emily moved first. Without thinking, she dropped the mic and grabbed the heavy podium beside her, slamming it sideways into the man's chest. He stumbled backward, stunned. In that same moment, Marcus launched himself onto the stage, tackling the man to the ground. They struggled violently, fist to blade, knee to ribs, until Agent Reyes and two officers rushed in, guns drawn. "Drop the knife," Reyes bellowed. The man hesitated, blade raised. Emily stepped between them, holding her breath. Then he dropped it. The crowd, what remained, was evacuated. The attacker was cuffed and dragged off stage. Paramedics treated Marcus for a gash on his arm, while Emily stood shaking, clutching his bloody shirt. Later, at the precinct, Agent Reyes debriefed them. The man's name was Greg Tullis. Former military. No fixed address. He had been hired anonymously, promised a payout to make a statement. His digital trail was clean. But the USB stick in his tool bag held hours of internal Red Branch communication. Plans, names, funding logs, video threats. Enough evidence to connect multiple attacks across the country, including the break-in at Emily and Marcus's apartment. And among the logs, donor records. One name stood out, William Carter. Her father. Emily sat in silence. She had hoped it wasn't true, not fully. But there it was. On paper. On record. "He's not just involved," Agent Reyes said quietly. "He's on the executive council. Your father funds domestic terror." In the days that followed, federal warrants were issued. The Red Branch's leadership was exposed. Arrests were made. Hidden servers seized. Names released. The story dominated headlines. Pundits debated. Lawmakers scrambled to condemn what they had ignored. But for Emily and Marcus, the public noise was just background to something deeply personal. A week later, Emily stood at her parents' front door once again. This time not to visit. Not to beg for acceptance. But to confront the final piece of her past. Her mother opened the door slowly, eyes red. "He's gone," she whispered. "When he found out the FBI was coming, he ran." Emily nodded. She didn't need to see him. She didn't need another confrontation. Her mother cried, but Emily didn't offer comfort this time. She simply said, "You knew. You stayed. I was scared. You were comfortable." Then she turned away. The next year was a rebuild. Marcus recovered. Emily was invited to speak before Congress. She became a voice in the fight against racial violence and extremist groups. But she never let it turn her into a brand. She stayed grounded, raw, honest, imperfect. She wasn't trying to be a hero. She just refused to be quiet. And Marcus? He returned to teaching, using his story to educate students not just on engineering, but on resilience, identity, and the weight of being a black man in America. They renewed their vows quietly. No stage. No press. Just family, the chosen kind. Friends who'd stood with them. Community members who'd protected them. And strangers who'd written letters from across the world saying, "Thank you. Your love gave me hope." Emily still keeps the lipstick-scrawled photo from the apartment break-in. Not to relive the fear, but to remember what they overcame. Because hate tried to burn them down. But they rebuilt something stronger. And brighter. Together. Love is not just an emotion. It is a choice, a resistance, and a declaration. In a world where hatred hides in tradition and fear dresses itself as values, choosing love, especially across lines society tries to enforce, is an act of courage. Emily and Marcus proved that love doesn't need permission, and it certainly doesn't need to apologize. Silence protects systems. But truth? Truth breaks them. The end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories that uplift Black voices and expose hidden truths.